Morning gamers and memers. We have a new debug menu in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Framewalking sparks controversy in the SM64 community, and we have some new notable world records. Before we get into that, I want to introduce this new format. I'm Xafication. I'm gonna start this new series of trying to cover some speedrunning news, some controversies and notable records, etc. that are being viral in the speedrunning community and give my little input on it. If you like, so any feedback you might have, you can give on Twitter or in the comment section. Now, um, now in the news, obviously, is the new debug mode that has been found and utilized in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask for the N64. This is a glitch, if you want to call it that. It is the debug menu left by the developers. It is a debug menu that lets you altercate item values and certain flags in the game, as you can see. This picture is what it looks like in game. It is on a Japanese 1.0 cartridge. It was found by some glitch hunters named Fash and Exodus. They found a way to implement it into runs very recently, and it has been sparking a lot of controversy in the Legend of Zelda community recently. Now, like before we get into the controversies, let's look at a little bit what this means for the run. So as you can see, the menu is a little bit hard to read because the game is in a really glitchy state, so it's really hard to tell anything from this. But basically what this allows you to do is add any items or flags that are required to normally beat the game in the debug menu instead, so you don't have to go around collecting items and such just to beat the game. And obviously this is mostly at the moment relevant for any percent of that category. What this will mean for longer categories is remaining to be seen. The big thing here is obviously that it saves a lot of time. The old record for Majora's Mask any percent used to be a 1:15:29 by Swedish runner Enop. The current record is also by Enop. He took it back for a while. It's a 50:17, so it saves a whole 25 minutes. The big difference here is that these runs are on the Japanese Wii U, as opposed to the Wii Virtual Console that was used previously. The Wii U has longer loads and is otherwise slower for speedruns, but the reason they now use Wii U is because you cannot actually use this menu on Wii VC, because to go through the menu, to like scroll through it, you use the D-pad, which is not mapped on the Wii Virtual Console, at least at the moment. So this happened only some days ago. The old world record was broken. The only other run using this on the leaderboards currently is by a Canadian runner known as Full Grown Gaming. He got a 50:55, but Enup has since taken the record back. Now the big controversy here is this is a debug menu. So the question is, should this be allowed? Now, these are currently accepted on the speedrun.com leaderboards, but there is an obvious argument to be made for banning it because there are a lot of games out there with debug modes. Closest to my own heart is obviously Jack and Daxter series, which has a really omnipotent debug mode, allowing you to like just soar around, put flags that will just like do whatever basically. And that an any percent run, if you will, with that on would only be probably like measured in like milliseconds after around like a minute long, probably. I have actually no clue how long that is, but it would be completely stupid. Um, and so there are prominent voices on both sides of the argument whether or not this should be allowed. I was initially very skeptical about this. Debug modes are a very sketchy subject when it comes to rule sets like this. For me, it has a long time fallen into the category of cheats, which are usually allowed in pretty much every game aside from miscellaneous categories. So I was initially opposed to the idea of adding this. to the official any percent, you should have like a miscellaneous category for this, and this is the opinion of a lot of other people as well. But after doing some research on what the menu can actually do, what it requires to unlock it, and so on, I don't see a problem with this because it's not nearly as powerful as some other debug menus in other games. And I feel it is obviously coming down to a community decision, and there are definitely valid arguments here. The main thing I want to point out is if you want to allow this, the arguments for it are a little bit flimsy. It is gonna come down to just is it enjoyable? Is it like not? Is it like sufficiently restricted to make for a proper speed run? Which it seems to be. I mean, the run is still 50 minutes long, even with a debug menu, because it obviously it requires playing the Song of Soaring, I think 60 something times, I believe it currently. It was originally like several thousand times. If you want a detailed history of how the trick came to be, you can go check out a video by Majin Phil on that specific subject. But yeah, that is an ongoing discussion. We don't know what the end of that will be. In other news, there has been a controversy recently come up again about a trick called Framewalking in Super Mario 64. Now, this is a trick that has been known for a long time, and it was recently re-earthed when Siglemic, the good old legendary Super Mario 64 speedrunner, performed the trick live in a 120-star race at pace. And currently I believe all top 5 120-star runs perform the trick as stands. The basic controversy around this trick is that, as it requires the use of a adapter controller. I believe most people use a box controller, and it requires remapping the analog input of joystick up to a digital button, which is obviously either up or down, making so that when you mash the button, the game reads it as an analog input into up neutral rapidly, which is what allows you to climb this spike, as you see here, to skip the cannon in Jolly Roger Bay. Now, this trick only saves 5 seconds in 120 star, which is obviously almost an hour 40 long. But at the optimization level of Super Mario 64, it is highly relevant, so it should be up for discussion. And it is, as like I said, it's currently allowed, and there are no other restrictions on 120 stars. So banning a trick would be really sketchy. Simply, the SM64 runner made a great video on the subject. I recommend go and check that out. I will leave the link in the description. Go check that out. But the basic idea is whether to ban the trick, ban adapter controllers, or to ban the mapping of an analog input to a digital input, which is basically how you perform it. And that the last one being, I think, the most reasonable if you don't want to allow it as is, which I think you probably should do, especially since it's just 5 seconds. But it's a principle question, I understand that. Also, as a part of this new format that I'm going to be making, I'm going to be giving some shout outs to some new world records and other achievements in notable speedruns. First off, we have a game called Risk of Rain. This is obviously a fairly popular speed game. On the 100% leaderboard, we have 137 separate runs, so it's definitely a prominent game, and the world record for any percent was broken 2 days ago by the American runner Topaz. Congratulations to Topaz. He beat the 9-month-old record held by Red Charge by 3 seconds RTA, 4 seconds IGT. So congratulations to Topaz. Other notable records, we have Resident Evil 2. Now, Resident Evil 2, this is the remastered version. This game was released in January of this year. It's the remake, but it has become one of the most prominent speed games on all of speedrun.com. It is currently the third most active speed game on speedrun.com, having a total of, I believe, 85 active runners by the SRC algorithms. And the Claire second world record was recently broken 2 days ago. It was only a month-old record, but it's a fairly new game by B. Callie, a Chinese runner, and he beat the record by 3 seconds. So congratulations to Callie, for sure. And definitely go check out the run. The Resident Evil speedruns have always been really interesting, and the remake one is no exception to that. Other notable games, we have a new Portal inbounds record. This is Portal 1, which is a really, really cool speed run. Both Portal 1 and Portal 2 are really active speed games. Both out of bounds and inbounds are really technical categories in both games. Currently, the new record stands in inbounds, achieved by a runner named Shizal. This is actually 2 weeks ago. The current record came in today, but the old record was broken 2 weeks ago. Obviously, I'm not going to cover everything as it happens, and this is the first video I'm going to be doing, so there's a little bit of old news here. But the old record stood for around 6 months before that, so congratulations to Shizal for bringing that down. And final shoutouts is to another really new game, being Fire Emblem The Three Houses, which is mostly just a shout out to the fact that it exists in general. It is less than a month old game. It was released on 26th of July. It currently only has 3 people who have done speedruns of this. The categories are divided in per house and to NG and NG plus. Go check those runs out. The runs are currently around 2 hours long. The Golden Deer one is a 1:46, and the Black Eagles only run standing is a 2-hour run. I expect way more runners to be picking this up soon enough, but it's a very new game, but it's a really good game. Go check that out for sure. Now, as I said, feel free to give. Now, as I said, feel free to give feedback on this type of newscast for the speedrun community. I'm just gonna cover the very bare bones of everything, trying to give everyone informed. If you like what I'm bringing forth, feel free to slap a like on the video, give feedback and other comments in the comment section below. And feel free to hit me up on Twitter or my Twitch channel or on Discord for with suggestions and feedback on the videos. Really appreciate it a lot. Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time.